Cross River Basin Development Authority takes stock of contributions to economic recovery plan of present administration. Federal government rules out another lockdown despite rising cases of COVID-19. Plus, Nigeria Center for Disease Control warns on cholera outbreaks used for maintenance of proper hygiene. Details and more shortly. A very good evening to you and thanks for joining us on the news. I am Justina Ethan. The Economic Recovery and Growth Plan of the present administration is meant to be a blueprint for pro-people intervention to lift over 100 million Nigerians out of poverty within 10 years. Correspondent to Leño in this special report explains the contribution of Cross River Basin Development Authority towards achieving the set goal.
The Managing Director, Cross River Basin Development Authority, Mr. Nta Calabar, while highlighting the vision, mission, and significant milestone recorded within the year under review, says the authority under his watch has recorded tremendous achievement through social intervention and capacity building.
To undertake a comprehensive water resources of our catchment area, water and adjoining land of our catchment area. The mission we have is to fully develop these water resources into a better use for the community through the construction of dams, irrigation services, borehole, and other related things, to also further introduce all the modern technologies to the society as way of improving on the use of water resources.
Mr. Nta Calabar, however, lamented the negative impact faced by the authority as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, which affects all facets of global economy, as well as the NSAS protests that led to the destruction of over 90% of the authority's facilities, including the headquarters office.
Ability for us to recover vast land for irrigation purposes is the ability to be able to make more Nigerians, more citizens within our catchment area to have access to good potable water.
Speaking on the roadmap 2016 to 2030 put in place by the Federal Ministry of Water Resources to facilitate the delivery of the ministry's mandate, including the Graduate Youth Employment Scheme, as inaugurated by the Minister of Water Resources, the Managing Director said the authority constructed livestock farms across 8 catchment areas and has equally engaged youth, mostly within host communities.
We developed our own scheme using what we have been given in the economic recovery program. We analyzed it and found out that the best thing for us to do is to go back to exactly the scheme that we have created. We are able to create so that in 1 hectare of land, how many products can be produced there? What would it translate to in the economy of the country? What are the assistance to be able to make them be able to achieve all this within that area?
He further explains that some of the beneficiaries of the project are empowered through assistance with farm implements, acquisition of farmlands, as well as skill acquisition through training of manpower for self-reliance.
We didn't quite get the process of it because getting the youths to come into that was difficult. But with the number of sensitizations that had gone on, the importance of agric, we go straight to even the NYSC to look for agric people and other related areas. In this regard, we've been able to have so many of them engaged, and we are now apportioning land into them. If you get to our farms, you would see quite a lot of them that are being trained.
Some of the authorities' farm project locations include Ituk, Abak, Onion, Nnungdem in Akwa Ibom State, while those in Cross River State are located in Ogoja, Obudu, Obubra, Wakande, and Ijeguyala, as well as the headquarter farms and more. Some of the farms visited by NTA News crew were the poultry, piggery, greenhouse farms, coach houses, green pepper, tomatoes, vegetable farms, fisheries, as well as the water factory that was destroyed by NSAS protesters in October 2020, among others. The Managing Director, Cross River Basin Development Authority, Mr. Basi Nkposong, says despite numerous setbacks, the authority has been able to provide some social amenities to 8 host communities, including borehole water scheme, in the face of lean resources. In Calabar, Ode Aleño, NTA News.
The federal government says it will review upwards the cost of completing the second Niger Bridge. Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, who revealed this when he inspected the Anambra end of the project, gave assurance that the bridge will be completed and inaugurated by 2022. Joy Iluegu reports.
The construction of a second bridge across the River Niger commenced in September 2018 at the cost of more than 200 billion naira with a completion period of 42 months. The bridge, with a distance of 11.9 kilometers from Onitsha to Asaba, when completed, will help ease traffic on the existing bridge. Inspecting the Anambra section of the project from the Owerri interchange in Onitsha, Minister of Works and Housing Babatunde Fashola, after being briefed by the Anambra State Federal Controller, Adeyemo Ajani, said he is impressed with the work done and reassured that the 2022 initial completion date is sacrosanct.
Now work has progressed on the Asaba-bound lane, and so you see behind us, this is nearly completed now. It's just about 75 meters and you have full completion. The road works will continue, finishing works will continue, and sometime in 2022 the entire project will be completed.
It's at 70% completion of the project. So the bridge itself, this bridge, is about 80% completion now.
The minister also visited the federal government secretariat in Awka, the state capital, where work on the project had indeed progressed, as the contractor had amended some architectural designs the minister earlier questioned during his last visit to the site.
I expect that in the shortest foreseeable time we will finish this project.
The over 400 office complex the contractor says will be completed by October this year as soon as funds are released. In Awka, Joy Iluegu, NTA News.
The federal government is reintroducing a toll collection system on some selected dual motorways across the country, but this time with a new open road policy. This means that the collection of tolls on roads will be without the use of toll booths to ensure an all-electronic tolling or cashless tolling system. Disclosing this after the Federal Executive Council meeting, Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, noted that the new system will not be operational until the affected roads become motorable. Speaking on actual tolls for various vehicles, the minister said his ministry presented a memo which the council approved to reintroduce toll gates on dual carriageways of 35,000 kilometers federal roads. Mr. Fashola added that the projected startup tools available for financial modeling and investment decision making suggest that cars will pay 200 naira, SUVs and jeeps will pay 300 naira, private buses are to pay 300 naira, commercial buses will pay 150, while luxurious buses and trucks will pay 500 naira. The Federal Road Safety Corps says that the agency remained a safety corps and not a revenue-generating agency. The Corps Public Education Officer, Assistant Corps Marshal Bisi Kazim, said this in an interview in Abuja. Kazim said that it has become necessary for the Corps to serve this as a warning to those circulating fake news on prices of number plates and driver's license. It was also gathered that there had been a report circulating that FRSC had increased the price of number plates and driver's license, tagging it as a revenue-generating agency. The report stated that registration of new blue plates is now 55,000, registration of new red plates 65,000, registration of new articulated plates 100,000. Despite measures put in place by various quarters to mitigate climate change, many harmful environmental practices are still posing a challenge. This is the driving force for the National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency to embark on compliance monitoring and enforcement on facilities. This is the driving force for the National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency to embark on compliance monitoring and enforcement on facilities over environmental offenses in Cross River State. Moribio Ajom tells us more.
Committed to ecosystem conservation, pollution control, environmental education and awareness, as well as sustainable waste management, among others, National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency, NESRIA, says companies and industries in Cross River State must comply with standard environmental laws, guidelines and policies in Nigeria.
Some of them, they fail to abide by the environmental tools. Some of these environmental tools which involve environmental audit, environmental management plan, air quality, waste and toxic substances. We'll keep on going to their facility, creating awareness to them, sensitization, advice. We'll give them notification of concern, that's latest, after carrying out inspection for several times, and they refuse to comply. That is what led to the issue of enforcement.
Before they do this, the state office must have visited the industries, carry out a compliance monitoring, issued a notification of compliance consent to them 2 times. We carried out compliance twice and issued notification of consent to them twice. Then after that, we watch to see if they will carry out the instructions on the letter. Without, if there's no compliance, we don't come for enforcement.
To instill discipline in the environmental sector, defaulting enterprises were sealed. The sealed industries, according to Cross River State Coordinator Nesria, have been issued series of notifications through consent letters and abatement notices to enable them carry out their operations within environment-friendly and sustainable manners. In Calabar, Maureen Leo Ajom, NTA News.
Let's take a quick break for now. We'll be back shortly with more reports. Please don't go away.
As news breaks from the north, south, east, and west of Nigeria, we bring it to you. News from the length and breadth of Cross River State is sent to you via this channel.
With movers and shakers in various spheres of influence talking to us, we carve a niche and showcase our experience in broadcasting, because it's Nta Calabar before others.
You can't get this anywhere else. It's only here on Nta Calabar News, showing at this times 3 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and 7 p.m. every day. Nta Calabar News. Our experience counts.
Welcome back to the rest of the news. The National Examination Council, NECO, has procured additional 8,000 biometric machines to cover all its centers across the country. The registrar, NECO, Professor Ibrahim Wushishi, disclosed this in Yola after inspecting the ongoing NECO examinations in some centers in Adamawa State. Tafawa Hamza Mayo reports.
21 NECO senior school certificate examination captured over 1.3 million candidates against 1.1 million who sat for the examination in 2020, hence the decision of the body to explore more ways to ease its activities. The registrar NECO, Professor Ibrahim Dantani Wushishi, during monitoring of the ongoing NECO SSC internal examination in some centers in Yola, said the growing popularity of NECO in the country necessitated the provision of more biometric machines in all approved centers nationwide.
I want to say in NECO that other international examination bodies look up to for learning certain innovations that we have introduced in NECO, in terms of conducting credible and reliable examination.
Wushishi, who expressed satisfaction with the conduct of the examination, assured that NECO will continue to provide credible services for the good of all. In Yola, Tafawa Hamza Mayo, NTA.
government says it is not considering a lockdown despite rising cases of COVID-19 infections across the country. Speaking at the weekly ministerial briefing organized by the State House, Abuja, Minister of Health, Dr. Osagie Ehanire, said the number of cases were not threatening enough for a lockdown to be considered. He said Nigeria has procured nearly 40 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine through the African Union, assuring those who have taken the first shot of the AstraZeneca vaccine of the availability of the second doses by the end of August, when the 3.9 million doses of the vaccine type is expected to arrive the country. Meanwhile, Nigeria has recorded new cases of COVID-19 with 1 death, the highest in 6 months. According to NCDC latest report of Thursday, the infections were recorded in 13 states, with Lagos topping the charts with 57 cases, followed by Rivers 23 and Ondo 22. Others are Ogun 31, Oyo 23, Delta 10, Federal Capital Territory 9, Ekiti 7, Edo 6, Osun 4, Anambra 2, Bayelsa 2, and Plateau 1. And still on health, 31,815 deaths have already been recorded across the country. And Director General of the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, Chike Ihekwazu, is warning that the cholera outbreak is killing more Nigerians now than COVID-19 due to non-adherence to health regulations. The epidemiologist spoke at the weekly executive briefing of the press at the Presidential Villa in Abuja, organized by the Presidential Media Team, headed by Femi Adesina, Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity. 22 states, he says, are currently experiencing outbreak of cholera, and there is the urgent need for every individual and households to ensure cleanliness and sanitation. Dr. Ihekwazu advised the people to avoid open defecation, maintain good and proper hygiene such as washing hands regularly, coughing into elbow, and regular house and environmental cleaning. Children are gifts from God and are said to be a blessing to the family and the society at large. Likewise, every family desires to bless the society with healthy and talented children. However, this desire is stalled by certain unprecedented factors, as many families get stuck with the burden of children with sickle cell anemia. Morilio Ajam assesses the prevalent rates of children with sickle cell anemia, causes, and possible precautionary measures.
Research shows that about 150,000 children in Nigeria are born annually with sickle cell anemia, with a prevalent rate of 20 per 1,000 live births. Similar research shows the potential to decrease the prevalence of sickle cell anemia and thereby decrease the burden on families and the healthcare systems. How then is this achievable?
Over time, so many parents that didn't know about this have been suffering because of this situation. Their children and all that have been sick. They've been, in short, they've been passing through stress because of lack of knowledge. But for now, there are awareness going on. So many parents are aware. So they also advise their children not to get into marriages without checking their genotype.
Before you get into marriage, you have to know your spouse genotype so that you will not produce sickle cell children. Because in a way you get married in a manner, at least this society now is civilized. We are in a digital era. So in whatever thing you want to do, you need to seek medical advice as well. In as much as you are in love, you should know how you fall in love. Don't bring in a child that will suffer the rest of his or her life.
I advise people to go for a test to know their genotype before getting married.
Nothing more nor less. Premarital screening is said to remain the only strategy for the prevention of inherited disorders.
Doing your genotype before getting married is very important because it will prevent a life of pain life of torture and probably a life of tragedy at the end of the day. So if two people who are AS get married, there is a possibility that they are going to have children that have SS, that is sicklers. And the experience is not good. Once you leave an SS person that's a sickler gets married to someone that is AS, still the same, higher possibilities. And worse off if two sicklers get married. That means all the children will be sicklers.
The goal of reducing the number of individuals in Nigeria who have sickle cell anemia is compelling.
So the advice is for one to do genotype before getting married. Ensure that if you're an SS person or AS, you get married to someone that whose genotype is AA. That is very important. At the worst, you will have children who are carriers. Now, somebody who is carrying the sickle cell trait will not exhibit the disease, will not have the disease. But if that person also meets another person that has the trait, the possibility of having children who are sicklers is very high. This has been very rife in so many. There have been so many examples, so many cases, and some people who wanted to, do faith, show how strong their faith is, ended up having a lot of issues. Some lose all the children.
However, testing earlier in life offers a less burdensome and potentially even more effective means of achieving the goal. In Calabar, Maureen Leo Ajom, NTA News.
And finally, a recap of the top stories. The Cross River Basin Development Authority is taking stock of its contributions to economic recovery plan of President Buhari's administration. The federal government says it is not considering another lockdown in spite of rising cases of COVID-19. You also heard in the news that the Nigeria Center for Disease Control has warned on cholera outbreak while calling on Nigerians to maintain proper hygiene. That's all on the news. Thank you for sharing your time with us.